welcome back to World Talks, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Saria Strzemska. Now let's step into a world of glowing glass and forgotten brilliance, a place where old signs tell powerful stories. I'm talking about Warsaw's Neon Museum, a one-of-a-kind place that saves the neon signs that once lit up the streets of post-war Warsaw. These aren't just lights, they're part of the country's visual history. And tonight we're lucky to hear more about them from someone who helped save them. Joining me now is David Hill, co-founder of the Neon Museum here in Warsaw. Hello and welcome, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So you have just relocated to a new venue, right? The Palace of Culture and Science.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you, why was the Neon Museum founded in the first place?
That's a good question. It really goes back to 2005 when I was first invited to Warsaw by my partner Ilona. We were traveling through the city as tourists, really, and I noticed these stunning neon signs back then, absolutely beautiful symbols and signs, still glowing in many cases. And my background is graphic design and typography, and so I was completely overwhelmed by this brilliant, luminous city streets full of neon lights. So Ilona decided to do a photographic project of the last remaining Warsaw neons. And it was during that process that we started to realize these signs were being taken down in great numbers and destroyed, discarded. They had absolutely no cultural worth at all. And actually, we learned they were seen as a bit of a throwback to communist occupation. So many people didn't like them. But we intervened. We started to save these neon signs from destruction. And we had enough eventually to come up with the idea of creating a permanent collection that people could go and see and admire and learn about the history of the Polish neon and the neonization campaign. So this was really the foundation to the museum. It was really just pop-up museums, pop-up galleries here and there. And now we have a permanent museum in the new Palace of Culture and Science space. So we're absolutely thrilled to pieces with what we've created, and to shine a light again, in fact, the neon shine a light on us, the history of neonization in Warsaw.
Absolutely, that's terrific, and congratulations. So what is the size of your collection?
Well, we have over 300 neon signs in our collection, and many other artifacts such as original blueprints and drawings from the great artists who created them. And we've renovated fully over 100 neon signs for the space in the Palace of Culture.
Mm-hmm. So how do these neon signs sort of reflect on Poland's post-war history and cultural evolution?
That's a good question. They've been reinvented. They're now seen as art. We've sort of stripped away the political connotations. Nobody's advocating going back to those sorts of times. And these are just symbols of art, design, the work of great graphic designers and artists who are connected to the Polish poster school. So I think we're paying homage to a hitherto unknown art form, really. It's a sort of another chapter in the story of the Polish applied art, and I think a very, very important story to tell.
Mm-hmm. So what are these signs considered more than just advertising? You've already mentioned the Polish School of Poster, right?
Yes, well, I mean, the best artists of the age were commissioned to create these new neon symbols in this, as I said before, this neonization campaign. This was this new verb invented by the Polish to describe what this campaign was to be. Of course, they were all propaganda, but they really created some truly stunning symbols. As you can see, we have lottery symbols this is from Budapest, this neon sign, and we are amazed at the creative freedom that these artists were granted in a time of very little creative freedom. Of course, we all know the history. So for me, this is an explosion of creativity, of talent, and these were designed for specific buildings and specific communities, trades and shops, that sort of thing. And now we're left with, in my view, masterpieces. These are absolutely worth every element of their creative and cultural value. They're so important to Poland. They're important also to Hungary. They also had a similar neonization campaign. So we're just trying to present these again in a sort of a gallery environment so people can come and wonder and be amazed. And of course, it's a museum of memory. We have a lot of people who remember these signs as children, walking through the streets of Warsaw with their grandparents and their parents, and they remember these wonderful symbols such as the Bar Mleczny Bambino and some of these other stunning neons, the great Globus Orbis. And of course, that evokes a lot of memory, a lot of positive memories and associations and nostalgia. So we are a museum of graphic design. We're a museum of neon, of course, and history. And we've researched so many of these signs, histories. We know who designed them. We often have their original drawings and blueprints. And we want to invite people in to share their stories and memories of the times of neonization.
Mm-hmm. And how popular is the Neon Museum among visitors, and who are your audiences?
Well, to our amazement, very popular. We had around 100,000 visitors to the museum in my former location, which was in the Praga district in Warsaw. So quite hard to find, quite hard to get to, but we still had hundreds of thousands of people over the past few years. So I'm hoping in the new location, the museum will become more accessible. Part of a sort of the spontaneous tourism map now. I think we invite people to sort of wander in and explore and have a look. So incredibly popular, incredibly unique. We're the only neon museum in Europe. There's nothing like this. It's truly one of a kind. There are only two, I think, neon museums in the whole world. So we're very proud to have that as a status. You know, we're truly original, and we want to put Warsaw on the map for neon because it's always had a love affair with neon lights.
Mm-hmm. And so you have just reopened your doors after this relocation. So what is the significance of now being located at the Palace of Science and Culture?
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, we're in the new heart of Warsaw, as President Trzaskowski has tried to build this fabulous new centre with gardens and parks and bars and cafes. And so we're really thrilled. We hope to add to that excitement and the cultural expansion that has been planned by the president. And of course, for us personally, we have a larger space to work in and to grow. Enormous space. It's about 1,000 square meters of exhibition space. So we have a cinema, and we have room to expand our collection and show some of our taller pieces. We have many neon signs that span 10 meters wide by 5-6 meters tall. Simply impossible in the past to exhibit those, and now we're having those on display. So we're thrilled to pieces with this new space.
Mm-hmm. And looking at Polish culture right now, I mean, can we be talking about nostalgia for the 1960s, 1970s? Do you see that trend nowadays?
Well, I don't know if there's nostalgia. I just think there's a fascination. I think there's, particularly with the younger generation. The younger generation we've got to acknowledge are very aesthetic. They're very graphic based. So they come in and they're astounded by these symbols that still look so fresh and new and original. But of course, they're 50, 60 years old. So I think that is the strange contradiction that amazes people. So I think nostalgia, no, but certainly excitement and renewed interest and also an understanding of the value of historic objects. So, you know, this trend to destroy must sort of, you know, I think it gets pushed to one side, and now we need to rebuild and renew and refocus on a lot of the history that we've grown up with.
Mm-hmm. All right. And would you mind explaining to our viewers why the use of neon in 1960s, 1970s? What was the significance of that, and why it was so progressive at the time?
Yes, well, I mean, the authorities were losing control. I mean, it was a Moscow-based communist authority, and they were worried that they would lose control of the Eastern Bloc, as they once called it. People were in a state of rebellion, and they wanted their freedoms back. They wanted to be consumers. They remembered the days before the wars, and they wanted their lives to reflect their previous existences. So the authorities, in a sort of a cunning move to try and placate and bamboozle the population, decided to neonize, and this was decided in Czechoslovakia and Moscow. These great campaigns to give people the impression of modernity. You live in a modern city, you can consume, you can go to cocktail bars and buy nice new clothes. So this worked. This was a very successful propaganda campaign, primarily directed at the populations of the countries that the Soviet authorities controlled. And including Budapest, they were also concerned that with the revolution, that they were losing control. So this neonization was this fabulous new luminous way to give people this sense of excitement and happiness again. And of course, it was a bit of a trick. This didn't really last, and people started to see these as rather ironic symbols and objects. But typically Polish, they turned this into a positive, and these became landmarks for people to meet their friends and navigate the city streets, perhaps. So very interesting political history behind the neonization campaign. And again, as I said, using only the best graphic artists of the age.
Right. And sort of, was it unique to this region? What about Western Europe, for instance?
Well, the authorities did not want to recreate or license, in fact, the Western free market neon sign designs. So these were going to be something quite unique. These were going to be rationalized, controlled. They were symbols and semaphores that would guide you through the cityscape. They would inform, they would entertain, they would amuse. They weren't really designed as advertisements. So it's a sort of a contradiction in terms of socialist advertising. So we've got this very unique art form that looks a lot like Western neon, but is nothing like it in its purpose. These were symbols just to indicate a shop or a place that you could go, and as you can see here, milk bars, libraries, perfume shops. Whereas the West had it was a free market system. This was not. This was something that was run by the central trade body. So everything was controlled, and all the neons had to be approved by a state official at the end, of course. It often used to take up to 3 years to approve any given neon sign. So astonishing then that we have, thousands and thousands of these neon signs pop up in the 50s and 60s across every town and city in Poland, in Hungary, and former Czechoslovakia, because the control was still very, very tight at that time. But as you can see, the freedom in their creative expression was astonishing.
Right, and despite this sort of utilitarian purpose, they still have a high artistic value, right? I mean, when you look at these things. Do you have your favorite one?
Oh, I do. My gosh, that's a question. I had a feeling that was coming. It's something that I'm asked all the time, but it's like children. You can't really favor one or the other. So to me, I think they're all beautiful. They all have their own unique stories and aesthetic values. I suppose if I'm really pushed, I will tell you it's Mydła Farby, which is soap and paint, just because it's such a unique symbol for something so prosaic, something so mundane. It was just painted in a soap shop, and there was this spectacular symbol. You can see that working in the Neon Museum. It's a real showpiece.
So definitely worth visiting the Neon Museum. David Hill, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TV World.